Hello, it's Pibble Pusher, and today we'll be going over how to make your own flying island. These are great for any session with an aerial assault component, whether you're flying in on dragonback or airships like my party here. You can add whatever scatter terrain you want, extra plants, things like that, but in this tutorial we'll just be going over how to make the core island. Now before we jump in, just a reminder that I do have a Kickstarter going for my new dark fantasy novel, so please do find that link in the description. For my flying island, I used 2-inch XPS foam and measured out approximately how much I thought would fit on my table for the top layer, and then just got progressively smaller from there, finishing off with 4 layers, so I had an 8-inch tall island. Then I stacked them upside down and add some hot glue to hold them all together, being sure to keep the hot glue in the center of the little upside down pyramid. And that is because we are going to be cutting away from the outside to add shape and texture. And that becomes a lot more annoying if you have glue where you want to cut. When you're done, you should have something that looks like this. If you're using this flying island for a tabletop game, I highly recommend adding in a 1x1 inch grid so that you can use miniatures effectively on it, measuring distances and such and so forth. Next up, we're going to go ahead and give our island a bit of shape, make it a bit more natural. I just bought a fancy dancy foam cutting pen for this, but you could totally use a knife and that would be absolutely fine. Try to make it significantly smaller at the bottom than it is at the top. My island ended up with lots of flat pieces when it was at this stage, so I got a fork and just went in and roughed it up on every single flat edge to make sure it looked natural and there were no odd pieces that just ruined the effect. Then it was time to Mod Podge. So if you've watched my videos, you know that I use a mixture of black paint and Mod Podge to seal all of my foam crafts. This is of course from the wonderful Black Magic Crafts channel. It's a great tip and works on pretty much any kind of foam build. Once the black's dry, I like to go in and do a heavy dry brush of a darker gray paint, then a lighter of gray, white, and if it's a kind of stone that would be found outside, then a bit of brown and a bit of green as well, just to add a little bit of a dirty, more natural color palette. Next up is texturing, so we're going to go ahead and paint on some white glue around crevices and anywhere else you want a little bit of extra roughness, and pour on playground sand and dollar store gravel. You can do this before your black Mod Podge layer if you like, but on this particular build I actually wanted it to stand out a lot more than usual, so I did it afterwards. I also added flocking at this stage, and if you want to see how to make my foam flocking, go ahead and check out my other video, DIY Flocking 3 Ways. This is supposed to be a flying island, so our last step is to add either a foam board or cardboard base to our island, unfurl some cotton balls, and hot glue them onto the base to add that nice fluffy skyward effect. And there you have it, we're ready for our aerial assaults. The island is good to go, and you can add whatever scatter terrain, extra plants, things like that you want to make it suit your campaign. I personally don't like to affix anything too permanently to things like this, just so that it stays very, very flexible. I do hope you find this tutorial useful and find ways to use something like this in your games. And of course, please do remember to check out that Kickstarter in my description. It's a big help to me as a creator. Thank you so much, and until next time, happy crafting!